chances and risks for 2023, or opportunities and risks. It will be an interesting year. And I want to share with you some thoughts from a European perspective, from a textile rental perspective. And you can see whether it applies to your business, to your industry, to your market. And we take it from there. Hi, my name is Christian Wurzelball. I support the textile service industry with management training, know-how in textile service 4.0 and practical hints that you can implement right away. Peter Drucker, he said once, focus on opportunities and not on problems. So it's always important that we tap opportunities and that we are not depressed and just thinking about problems. However, it's also important that we assess the risks and the environment, because otherwise we fool ourselves. And if we are very successful in coping with a risk, for instance, and if we are more successful than our peer, then it's actually an opportunity. So even a risk or a problem can be an opportunity if you manage it better. So let's focus on the opportunities, even if there are risks in this video. So what can 2023 bring? It's always a guess. So we didn't know in January 2020 that there will be a pandemic. We didn't know in January 2022, at least most of us didn't expect Putin to invade Ukraine. And all the consequences. So there's a good chance that I'm wrong today, but I'll try to make a good educated guess. I have studied it a little bit over the last few weeks and months. What can be developments in the future? And one thing is recession. I personally think that we are already in a recession in most parts of the world. That due to some fortunate inflation accounting, the inflation is still lower than the growth. But I have the feeling that we get a recession in 2023. Why? On the one hand, it's Russia. So Russia accounts of 10% of global oil trade and 20% of natural gas trade, and both of these trades are in danger big time. So oil trade is in danger because all the pipeline oil to Europe is now turned off almost, and there is no real replacement to use tankers for the whole volume of Russian oil. And once you are not able to produce in Siberia, then you have the risk that the pipes are frozen, and then you can basically start anew. So a frozen oil field is basically, it's broken, and you have to redo it completely from scratch. So there is a risk that that a part of Russian oil will be gone for the medium term, for the next 5 to 10 years. And this is also because all the experts and the spare parts and so on of the existing oil fields are not available to Russia anymore. So Russia will go the way of Venezuela when it comes to oil. And natural gas is even more tragic, because most of the natural gas is pipeline gas to Europe, which is cut off right now almost. I know. I think it's 80% less than before, and therefore there's no replacement that Russia can go with LNG. So basically, we lose a good part of the natural gas of Russia in the world trade volume. So as a consequence, Europe buys LNG big time from the global market and competes with Asia and all the other LNG customers in price. And Europe has a strong economy after all, so Europe will get its gas, but many parts of the world will suffer. And so this will also cause, on the one hand, a recession in Europe, but also higher gas prices all over the world. Interest rate hikes. That's a big time, and the Fed in America is their most aggressive. The idea is basically that you have the constraint of the supply chains, you have the constraint of the fossil fuels, so that you have too less supply there, and this increases prices. So central banks reduce demand, they crash demand even in order to reduce inflation. And when you crash demand, then you crash the economy, basically. And the question is whether you can do it with a soft landing or whether it's a crash. And most of the time, the Fed and the central banks are not able to make a soft landing. So there is very, very often, there's a very high risk of a hard landing of the economy. And higher interest rates mean also that markets like the real estate markets will suffer big time, or investments and so on. And also private households that have debt will not be able to afford the same amount of consumer goods than before. So this is big. And the effects will be in 2023 more than in 2020. And then we have supply chain problems, obviously. We have now a huge COVID crisis in China. It's like in Italy or in New York in the beginning of the pandemic, where you have a complete chaos in the hospitals and so on. So right now there are between 5,000 and 10,000 deaths a day in China, and this will also lead to problems in the economy, of course, and we are in danger to lose another 3 or 4 months of Chinese output, and this will make supply chain problems maybe as worse as in the last 2 years. So it depends whether they become worse, but there is no relief there. And volatility remains. So on the one hand, you have many uncertainties, black swans. You never know whether China is so desperate that they need to invade Taiwan. We didn't expect Putin to invade Ukraine, so who knows what is going on in the brain of Xi. And then you have the real estate market in China that could implode. You have unrest all over the world that is potentially there because of higher prices for food and so on. And you have government interventions that could be there when there is a recession. Then you have a government intervention, and this creates also volatility. You have protectionism and de-globalization. So there is a trade war between China and the States. So it's actually quite serious, and the Biden administration is even more hawkish than the Trump administration there. So the last step when they and now you have to get the permit in order to ship computer technology to China, and this of course has a huge implication also for the Chinese economy. And so protectionism is everywhere. Yeah. Inflation comes in waves. So when you have no inflation, of course, you have no waves there. And the reality is that inflation is always in waves. So right now, the prices of fossil fuels go down, which should reduce inflation on the one hand. But if we have then a recession, then maybe Congress will pass some legislation in order to spread money all over the states, and the same could apply to Europe and to the UK. And then all of a sudden there is so much money chasing a few goods that you have inflation again. So inflation comes in waves, and there can be many causes of inflation. And of course, you can have inflation, for instance, in food prices, and you can have deflation even in real estate. So you can have both at the same time. So you can have deflation on one part of the economy and inflation on the another part of the economy. And the question is how the labor market will develop. With the exception of India probably and the Middle East. So the rest of the world, the states are a little bit better off than Europe, for instance. But more or less, you have a decreasing labor market over the next 10 to 20 years. So the labor market, the growth of the human species is right now reversed in most part of the world, except for India, Middle East, and Africa. And so there is in many parts of the world a potential shortage of labor. And but if you have a recession, then still labor participation will drop. So basically, depending on which color you want, if you're an entrepreneur, then this is green. Let's make it yellow. You can't see it. Let's make it green. Sorry. So there might be some unemployment over the next few months, so that the labor market is not so tight, but in the long run it will be tight again. Yeah, and then there are more bankruptcies. I see it already happening in Europe, and I would assume that this is a worldwide phenomena. So what's then the implication for the laundry industry? And on the one hand, price volatility will remain. So there will be the need to negotiate prices, most probably even during 2023. Or in some cases, you would even have to reduce prices if energy costs decrease. So if you have to be honest with your customers there. And then there is the issue of a buyer's market and the supplier's market. So I do not know about your part in the world, but in many parts, the laundry industry is very constrained. So you have a reduction in capacity because you do not have enough workers to produce the capacity that you want. And on the other hand, you have a market that rebounds from before COVID, and now you have the whole demand that is constrained by a constrained capacity of the laundry market. So you have right now in many parts of the world a supplier's market. A supplier's market, let's make it green because this video is for laundries. So a supplier's market means that the supplier can choose its customers. So you have the capacity, or you do not have capacity, and you get requests of various new customers, prospects that want to do business with you, and you do not have the capacity, and you say just, okay, we can do it with plus 30%, then I can afford to pay my people even more and so on. So that's a supplier's market. And a buyer's market, on the other hand, let's make it red, is when the buyer is able to choose between different laundries. So if you make a tender as a buyer, you get, say, 3 to 7 or to 10 different quotations, and everyone tries to get the contract. And so this would be a buyer's market. And what I'm saying is that you need to be aware that there can be a switch in either way between a buyer's market and a supplier's market in the next year or two. So if you are right now in a supplier's market, you should not be too confident. It will change into a buyer's market again. And if you're in a buyer's market, then it even can change into a buyer's market for a few months. So that the dynamics can change, and I think they will change in many parts. And energy prices will continue to fluctuate, and it makes maybe sense right now to lock in the pricing for the next 2 or 3 years, because the pricing is not too bad right now, especially when it comes to natural gas. And but it will change and it will fluctuate. And the labor market, as mentioned before, is in motion. So there will be much change. It's a very constrained market. And yeah. So what are the opportunities? Large fortunes are created during a recession. So if you are successful during a recession, you have much higher leverage than if you are successful during a boom. During a boom, everybody is successful. During a recession, you can be one of a few who is successful, and this success can be 10x at the end of the day. So, but for this, you need liquidity. So if you have liquidity during a recession or during the second part of a recession, then you can, for instance, afford the linen if it's rental for new customers. You can buy up customer lists very cheap from someone who is insolvent. You can buy a plant and so on. Liquidity is a big leverage during recession. And I would say even during the second half of a recession. So you should keep your powder dry probably until 2024 or 2025. That's really important, and that's on the one hand a constraint, but it can be also an opportunity. Improve quality. So right now many laundries are just caring about themselves, that they have the right amount of workers, that they can increase the prices with the customers and so on. And how to source the different products and prices and negotiate with the suppliers. So everybody is focused about themselves, and the ones who care about the customers have now a big opportunity. So if you are the one in your industry, in your vicinity, that cares about the customer, that improves quality, that is not complacent there, then you can make a huge difference there. So quality is really important. Then pursue your own strategy instead of opportunism. Right now, strategy is even more important than ever. You need to know where are your strengths, what differentiates you from the competition, where do you have an unique selling proposition, a USP, which customers are your target customers, which services do you want to offer, where can you make a difference. And so this is your strategy in the market. And you need to know this strategy right now, because on the one hand, you could have opportunities. All of a sudden, there's a bankruptcy of a peer that is just 20 miles away, and you get requests of various customers that they want to make business with you. And it's important that you then know what you want to to offer them, and also you need to know whether you want them at all, whether they are your target customers. So it's important to know your strategy in order to make the decisions during the year. And the same applies then to your existing customers. So for instance, if you know what is your strategy, which services to offer, if you want to go, for instance, to rental, or you want to go away from rental or whatever, say you want to go, your objective is to be 100% rental, and you have 30% COG customers, then now is the opportunity, for instance, to make another step in the direction of 100% rental. The same applies, for instance, to your customer base. For instance, if you want to specialize for healthcare or nursing homes or hospitality or industry, different parts of industries, then now is the opportunity to have an even better focus, because it's easier right now to get also new clients. Reduce complexity, that's a big one. So right now is also the opportunity to reduce complexity. So you have much more understanding of the customer when you say, we have reduced our item list in order to have a better sourcing and a better supply chain, for instance, then he is glad and says, okay, all the items that you were not able to renegotiate over the last 10 years, he is now able, he is now agreeing to, because he is really happy if he gets anything. Yeah, so you can renegotiate your item list. You can renegotiate, for instance, how you fold your items, the packaging, how you put it into the container, and delivery specifications, ordering systems, and so on and so on. So you should make a complete assessment of complexity in your business, and really try to streamline your business. So if you just do this in 2023, that's big time. So reducing complexity, that's a big one. Reduce waste, that's a terminology from lean management. So everything that is not paid for with the customer, you can reduce, whether it's labor or energy or whatever. So try to assess where you have waste in your processes and reduce the waste there. You should be able, and I'm really positive that there is always the possibility to have very meaningful and very easy, quick success stories of saving costs with not much money. So reducing waste, that's a big one. Digitalization and UHF technology. The suppliers of software and also of hardware and tags and so on are much more advanced than 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. And all these processes are right now quite mature. So you have the opportunity to digitalize your whole process when it comes to ordering, that you have web interfaces with the customer, that you have less phone calls with the customer, and also UHF technology when it comes to tax and so on. So this will help you big time, and I think you should have at least 1 to 3 different initiatives this year in order to improve your process there. Develop people. Toyota once said, we are not just making cars, we are also developing people. And I think we as an industry, we should also say, we are not just washing linen or providing rental service to our customers. We are also developing people. And there are so many great people on the shop floor and in a laundry business. You just need to open your eyes there, and I think you have huge potential there. And it's important for the future to have there with HR and competitive edge. So this is really, really important. And it's an opportunity for the long run, because when you fix this issue in the long run, and when you improve there, then this can be a competitive edge when the labor market becomes tighter again. There are the 6 viable KPIs. I want to summarize this video again here. So we talked about the market position, and what I would recommend here is to focus on quality of the market position. So do you have the right customers with the right price? Do the customers fit to your business? Is this the right growth? Is this does it fit? So more quality than quantity, and you need to have the right strategy there. Then you have innovation performance. So as mentioned before, and we are talking here about innovation that is of benefit for the customer and that is also implemented. So which types of services and products can you implement and improve during the year? And you should have an objective here to improve at least 1 or 3 aspects of the business there. Then HR, the attractivity to the right people, as Malik said. So human resources, which is important big time. Either it's a constraint right now or it will be a constraint in the future. So this is a big one. And productivity or operational excellence, it's also about quality, it's about inventories, it's about delivery reliability, fulfillment, and punctuality. It's everything that you, when you have a market position. So productivity then leads to profitability and cash flow. So it depends on how you measure your business. So either you measure the profit, which should be between 10 and 20%, depending on your market. Of sales, and the cash flow should be between 25 to 35%, and even 40% of revenue. And so you should have there the right objectives, and this also in order to have the right liquidity. So liquidity is really important for 2023 and beyond. As mentioned before, you have the risk that you have no bank when you need a bank. So if the banks are stressed out, then they are not able to finance their customers, and they would demand more securities, so more collateral. They would demand much worse conditions, and this can happen within 1 day. So from 1 day to another, you can have a tightening of your financial position, and you need liquidity in order to be ready not to have to negotiate with the bank. So you should have a cash balance, a positive cash balance. You should manage your long-term liabilities. You should manage your collateral and so on, and your covenants of your different debt. So that's really, really important. Yeah, I really want to encourage you to make objectives for all 6 viable KPIs. They are interlinked, so when you have a good market position, then this is good for HR, and if you have a good innovation performance, that's good for your team. If you have the right customers with the right price, this is good for liquidity, and if you can reduce the complexity because you have the right strategy, then this is also good for productivity and so on. So you need to have objectives for all 6 of these viable KPIs, And if you have an issue there, and if you want to have support there, I'm working on it. I'm just implementing a program in German, and I'll do it in English as well. So you can subscribe to my newsletter. Then you will be informed when something comes up. And if you're an entrepreneur and you want to have somebody on the line that knows the market and the industry and can give you some input, then you can also set up a call with myself. And at the end of the video, I want to wish you a great 2023, and we'll see us in the next one. Bye-bye.